The early morning light filtered through dusty windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors of Sterling Enterprises headquarters. Outside, the city was just beginning to wake, but inside, the rhythm of unseen labor had already begun hours ago. There is a special kind of invisibility that comes with certain professions, those essential workers who move through our spaces, maintaining order and cleanliness while remaining largely unseen by those they serve. Faces without names, presence without acknowledgement. In downtown Chicago, this is how our story begins with Elena Vasiliev, a middle-aged janitor whose hands were worn from work, but whose mind harbored depths that no one had bothered to discover, until a chance encounter would transform not just her life, but the understanding of what it means to truly see another human being. Some voices are meant to be heard, even when the world has taught them to remain silent. Elena Vasiliev, 47 years old, was a janitor at Sterling Enterprises, a multinational corporation headquartered in Chicago. Her frame was slight but sturdy, with salt and pepper hair always neatly tucked into a practical bun. Deep lines etched her face, particularly around her eyes, the kind that come from both laughter and hardship, while her hands bore the calluses and slight chemical burns of someone who had spent decades cleaning. 20 years earlier, Elena had been a respected linguistics professor at a prestigious university in St. Petersburg. Her days were filled with academic discussions, research publications, and lecture halls where students hung on her every word. With degrees in comparative linguistics and cultural anthropology, she had published 3 books and could navigate conversations in multiple languages with elegant precision. But when political unrest erupted and her husband's journalism painted a target on their family, they fled with little more than documents and memories. Within months of arriving in America, her husband succumbed to a heart condition that had been exacerbated by stress, leaving Elena alone in a foreign country with credentials that weren't recognized and a teenage daughter to support. Now her daily life was defined by pre-dawn alarm clocks, bus rides in darkness, and the methodical cleaning of offices before their occupants arrived. She wore the navy blue uniform with Sterling maintenance staff embroidered on the pocket, becoming almost invisible as executives and employees streamed past her without a glance. The financial challenges were constant. Her small apartment in a neglected neighborhood, the careful budgeting for her daughter Sophia's university textbooks, the medications she sometimes went without to ensure Sophia had everything she needed for school. During lunch breaks, Elena would sometimes sit alone in the maintenance staff room, carefully turning the pages of her worn copy of Pushkin's poetry, or writing letters to old colleagues back home. These moments were brief windows into the woman she had been, the woman who still existed beneath the uniform. Just last week, when she overheard a young security guard struggling to communicate with a lost Russian visitor, Elena had stepped in quietly. She translated with perfect fluency, helping the visitor find their destination, then immediately returned to mopping the floor before anyone could ask questions about the unexpected assistance. As summer turned to autumn, Elena couldn't know that the carefully constructed walls between her past and present were about to crumble in the most unexpected way. It was on a particularly hectic Tuesday morning that everything changed. The Sterling Enterprises lobby was bustling with unusual activity, polished shoes clicking on marble floors, the subtle perfume of expensive colognes and perfumes hanging in the air, nervous energy palpable as staff prepared for an international delegation arriving for a crucial merger negotiation. Outside, September rain tapped gently against the floor-to-ceiling windows, while inside, Elena carefully maneuvered her cleaning cart around groups of tense executives. From the elevator emerged a man Elena had seen only in company photographs, Richard Sterling himself, the CEO and founder, a tall figure with silver temples and the confident stride of someone accustomed to command. Unlike his polished appearance in corporate portraits, today he seemed slightly disheveled, his tie askew and brow furrowed in obvious concern. Despite his wealth and power, there was something surprisingly approachable about him. His suit was expensive but not ostentatious, his watch simple rather than flashy, and his expression showed the strain of genuine concern rather than corporate artifice. Trailing behind him was a flustered assistant clutching a tablet and what appeared to be translation documents. "Mr. Sterling," the interpreters called. "Their flight from Frankfurt has been cancelled due to weather. They won't make it in time for the meeting with the delegates," she explained, her voice tight with anxiety. That's impossible. We have representatives from 6 countries arriving in less than 2 hours. This merger has been in negotiations for over a year, Sterling responded, running a hand through his hair. Do we have any backup translation services available on such short notice? I've called every agency in Chicago, sir. With the International Economic Forum happening simultaneously, there's no one available who can handle German, Japanese, Russian, French, and Mandarin all in one meeting. Most agencies need at least 48 hours notice for this level of service. Elena continued, wiping down the glass directory sign, pretending not to listen while anxiety knotted in her stomach. The corporate grapevine had been buzzing about potential downsizing if this merger failed, which could mean losing the job she depended on. Standing nearby, she hesitated, her mind racing with memories of lecture halls and international conferences, where she had once commanded respect through her linguistic abilities. For a moment, fear and habit told her to remain silent, invisible. Perhaps, Eleanor began softly, then stopped, years of conditioning making her second-guess the impulse to speak up. But something in Sterling's genuinely distressed expression made her continue. Setting down her cleaning cloth, she straightened her shoulders. "Excuse me, Mr. Sterling, I couldn't help overhearing. I may be able to assist with the translation needs," she said, her accent still present, but her English precise. "I speak all the languages you mentioned, plus Polish, Spanish, and Portuguese." The CEO's assistant looked startled, her expression a mix of disbelief and dismissal as she took in Elena's janitor uniform. "I'm sorry, but this is a high-level corporate negotiation requiring professional interpretation skills." Eleanor responded first in flawless German, then Japanese, following with Russian, Mandarin, and French, in each language explaining her qualifications and previous experience in academic translation. Richard Sterling's expression transformed from confusion to astonishment. "You're a polyglot," he said, not as a question, but with dawning realization. "Yes," Elena replied simply. "I was a linguistics professor before coming to America. I understand the importance of nuanced translation in business negotiations." "And you've been working as our janitor?" Sterling asked, genuine bewilderment in his voice. "We all do what we must to survive, Mr. Sterling," Elena answered, her dignity intact despite the flush of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "My daughter is studying biochemistry at university. The job has good health benefits." Without another word, she picked up her cleaning cloth and turned to resume her work, certain she had overstepped. "Wait," Sterling called. "Please wait." 3 hours later, Elena found herself in a situation that felt like a surreal dream. She had continued her cleaning rounds after the strange lobby encounter, certain nothing would come of it. But within 30 minutes, she was summoned to the Human Resources Department, where she now sat wearing her janitor uniform in a plush executive conference room surrounded by bewildered directors. When Richard Sterling walked in, conversations instantly ceased. "Ms. Vasiliev," he said, pronouncing her name correctly, something that almost never happened here. "Thank you for joining us on such short notice." Eleanor nodded cautiously, her hands folded neatly in her lap to hide their trembling. "I'm not certain why I've been called here, sir. Because I've spent the last half hour reading the background check we ran when you were hired," Sterling replied, placing a folder on the table. "It states you have a PhD in linguistics and cultural anthropology from St. Petersburg State University, but our hiring managers placed you in maintenance because your credentials weren't recognized here and you had no American work experience." The HR director shifted uncomfortably. Her application only showed cleaning experience from her first years in the country. The educational information seemed aspirational. "We receive many exaggerated resumes." "Aspirational?" Sterling repeated flatly. "I just witnessed her switch between 5 languages with native-level fluency. Did anyone bother to verify her academic credentials?" "We only verify education for management positions and above," the HR director admitted reluctantly. Sterling turned to Elena. "Ms. Vasiliev, would you be willing to help us with today's negotiations? Our delegation includes representatives from Japan, Germany, Russia, China, and France. Having someone who can catch nuances across all these languages simultaneously would be invaluable." Elena hesitated. "I haven't worked professionally as a translator in many years, Mr. Sterling." "Yet you maintained your languages," he noted. "Why?" "They are a part of me," she answered simply. "I read books, watch films, Listen to news in all my languages. When you love something, you don't abandon it just because circumstances change. Sterling nodded thoughtfully, then continued, I understand you've been with Sterling Enterprises for almost 6 years, always arriving early, never missing a day. Your supervisor comments that you're meticulous and thorough. These are the same qualities we need in our international communications department. Elena's eyes widened. International communications? After today's meeting, I'd like to discuss a different position with you, one that actually utilizes your considerable skills, Sterling said. But first, would you be willing to help us salvage these negotiations? The HR director interjected. Sir, there are protocols for internal transfers, minimum time in position requirements, which I'm overriding, Sterling said firmly. We've had a multilingual expert cleaning our toilets for 6 years, while paying outside agencies millions for translation services. I'd call that a significant misallocation of resources, wouldn't you? He turned back to Eleanor. Years ago, when I started this company, I was working as a night guard at another firm to make ends meet. My ideas were dismissed because of my position until one executive actually listened. I promised myself I'd never make the same mistake if I ever built my own company. He smiled ruefully. It seems I failed to instill that principle in my organization. I'd like to correct that today. For the first time in years, Eleanor felt the weight of invisibility lifting from her shoulders. What I'm proposing, Sterling explained as they walked toward the executive floor, is creating a new position as Director of Multilingual Communications. You would oversee our translation services, participate in international negotiations, and help develop our cross-cultural training programs. Elena's mind raced with both possibility and fear. The salary would be commensurate with your qualifications and experience, Sterling assured her. Approximately 10 times your current compensation, plus full benefits. Elena stopped walking. That's impossible. It's actually below market rate for someone with your linguistic abilities, Sterling replied matter-of-factly. We've been paying external consultants considerably more. Despite the opportunity before her, Elena hesitated. Mr. Sterling, I appreciate this chance, but I haven't worked in an academic or professional setting in years. People won't respect a former janitor suddenly placed in management. They'll respect results, Sterling countered. And from what I've seen, you'll deliver those. Still, uncertainty clouded her expression. Years of being overlooked had left deep scars on her confidence. My daughter depends on me. If I take this risk and fail... Mom? Elena turned to find Sophia standing in the hallway, confusion evident on her face. At 20, she had her mother's dark eyes and her father's determined jawline. Her presence in the corporate headquarters was unexpected. Sophia, why aren't you in class? Elena asked in Russian, automatically reverting to their home language. The department secretary called me, Sophia replied in English. Said there was some emergency at your workplace. What's happening? Why are you with the CEO? Before Elena could answer, a senior vice president who had opposed the impromptu promotion approached with barely concealed disdain. Mr. Sterling, the delegation has arrived. We should reconsider using our regular agency rather than this experiment. The word experiment hung in the air like an insult. Sophia's expression darkened. Excuse me? Are you talking about my mother? Sophia, please, Elena cautioned. No, Mom. I want to know why this man is referring to you like you're some kind of test subject. Sophia turned to the executive, switching to flawless English with an American accent her mother had never mastered. My mother was teaching comparative linguistics while you were probably still in business school. She speaks 9 languages fluently and published research that's still cited in academic journals. Sterling watched this exchange with interest. You must be Sophia. Your mother mentioned you're studying biochemistry. Double majoring in biochemistry and international relations, Sophia corrected. I grew up watching my mother clean buildings when she should have been leading departments. I wasn't going to let America waste my potential the way it wasted hers. The vice president had the grace to look uncomfortable. Sterling turned to Elena. It seems determination runs in the family. The delegation is waiting, Ms. Vasiliev. Are you ready to show this company what they've been missing? In that moment, looking at her daughter's proud face, Elena made her decision. 6 years of invisibility were enough. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. What followed was nothing short of a revelation to the Sterling executives. Throughout the 5-hour negotiation, Eleanor moved effortlessly between languages, catching subtle mistranslations in the written documents that would have created significant problems later. Her cultural insights helped bridge understanding between the German and Japanese representatives whose communication styles had been creating friction for months. By the end of the meeting, the international delegates were addressing their questions directly to her, and the Sterling team watched in amazement as years of academic expertise emerged from beneath the janitor's uniform. 18 months later, Elena stood at the podium of Sterling Enterprises' annual global conference, addressing more than 2,000 employees from 37 countries. She wore a tailored blue suit that echoed the color of her former janitor's uniform, a deliberate choice she made for every major presentation as a reminder of her journey. Behind her, the screen displayed the company's new employee development program, Hidden Talents Initiative. "When I came to America, I carried dictionaries in 6 languages but cleaned floors for a living," she told the audience. "Today, our company has identified 342 employees with advanced degrees or specialized skills that were going unutilized in their current positions." In the front row, Richard Sterling nodded with satisfaction. The program had been his brainchild, but Elena had been its architect and champion. Beside him sat Sophia, now interning in the company's international research division while completing her studies. After her presentation, Elena was surrounded by employees eager to share their stories. A maintenance worker with an engineering degree from Nigeria, a cafeteria cook who had been a software developer in Venezuela, a security guard with a master's in educational psychology. "Professor Vasiliev," called a familiar voice. Elena turned to find the HR director, who had once dismissed her credentials as aspirational. "Your department's retention rates are the highest in the company this year. I wanted to personally congratulate you." "Thank you," Elena replied graciously. "Though I prefer Director Vasiliev now, Professor belongs to another life." Later that evening, at a celebration dinner, Sterling presented Elena with a small, elegantly wrapped package. Inside was a custom-made nameplate for her office door. "What's this for?" she asked. "I already have a nameplate." "Look closer," Sterling encouraged. The nameplate read, "Elena Vasiliev, Ph.D., in English, followed by the same in all 9 languages she spoke. "Because names matter," Sterling explained. "And no one who works with you should ever forget exactly who you are." Elena ran her fingers over the engraved letters of her native Russian, remembering the worn copy of Pushkin she used to read during lonely lunch breaks, the same book now displayed proudly on her executive office bookshelf. "From cleaning floors to cleaning up communication problems," she said with a smile. "A different kind of maintenance altogether." In the busy halls of corporate America, invisible workers move through our spaces every day, their talents and histories obscured by uniforms and assumptions, their voices silenced by convenience and prejudice. For Elena and Richard, a moment of crisis revealed that sometimes the most valuable resources aren't found in boardrooms or business schools, but in the overlooked corners of our own organizations. Perhaps true leadership isn't just about recognizing opportunity in the marketplace, but also in the faces we pass every day without truly seeing. Dignity can survive the harshest circumstances, and excellence often hides in the most unexpected places. What talents might be serving your coffee, cleaning your office, or driving your taxi? What voices are waiting to be heard? If only someone would listen.